Good morning. Today we're not going to talk about a gun. What I'd like to do is talk about something that's important and it become really important to me in the past week or so, and that's headspace. What is headspace? Well, headspace is the measurement of inside the chamber. Excuse me. What they do is it's the measurement from the breech all the way to the beginning of the shoulder, and that number is consistent when you have ammunition. So if you can imagine, this goes in and it fits in, and the shoulder fits where it's supposed to, and everything's fine. Well, what you have to do is understand that the cartridge is going to expand. So it's going to expand out, and what it does then is it seals the chamber so that everything goes out the way it's supposed to go. So, for instance, I looked it up in the 30-06, which this is a 30-06. The headspace for that is 0.006 or 6 thousandths of an inch. Anything more than that or less than that can cause problems, which we're going to talk about. The Lee Enfields that I have, a lot of those, their tolerance is 4 thousandths, and actually it goes a little bit higher than that, but the official term is the official thing is 4 thousandths. So what happens now when you have a chamber that's too small? What happens is you put your cartridge inside, and if it goes inside, and then when it is fired, there's no room for the brass to expand. And when there's no room for the brass to expand, then it can explode. And it can explode backward. And that's part of the problem where you're shooting and all of this stuff comes shooting back at you, and that's a bad deal. If the chamber is too big for your round, it's in there and it's rattling around, then what happens then is that the chamber does not seal properly. And when it doesn't seal properly, then also you'll get a ruptured cartridge, or you'll get an exhaust that comes out the back of the cartridge. The other day I was out shooting. I shot some 30-06, and that looks fine, right? Well, my second shot came out like this here. Um, I was sprayed with the hot gases and etc. that came out. There's actually a hole in this is one of my Enfields. There's a hole in the top of the chamber right here, and what that's for is to help to um, the gases and stuff will come out that hole as opposed to just building up inside the gun. I tell you, when it went off, I turned my head and it burnt my face, and it also lit my hair on fire, which is interesting. Luckily, I was wearing my sight protection, as I always do when I'm firing, and just because you just never know, something like that might happen. So the gun that I had fired had excessive. Well, I think it had short headspace. I talked to my gunsmith about it, and what had happened was it wasn't my rifle, but that the chamber had so much rust in it that the cartridge was unable to seat in there properly, so that sometimes it'll fire just fine, but the one time it didn't fire fine, and it scared the hell out of me because I was sprayed with especially at 30-06, sprayed with the exhaust from the gun. And it gives me a new appreciation for the 30-06 round. So how do we find out about whether or not we have too much or too little uh, headspace? If you buy a gun from the store, go down to Dick's or whatever and buy a gun, the factory has already done this for you. They've already checked your headspace, made sure it's okay. If you buy a used gun from a used gun dealer, you need to ask them, have you checked the headspace? Because there may be some adjustments that need to be done um, to it. If there's too little headspace, that's the easy fix. What you would do is go and they ream it a little bit so that that'll make enough room for the cartridge to go in. My 32 Winchester has a short chamber, and I'm gonna have to do that. And when I do it, I'll do it online so people can see. Um, you have to do a little reaming, check it, see what the measurement is, and do a little reaming until you get it to what it's supposed to be. And that way, there, the cartridge will have enough room in there to expand and do what it needs to do, and it won't be dangerous for me. So one way to measure this is they have gauges. The gauges are set up. I have 8mm gauges here. I don't have a 30-30 or a 30-06 gauge, but and they come in various forms and various types and stuff. And this is one of them right here. This is a Forster, and what it does is it goes inside the chamber, and then you try to close it and see what happens. I don't have the one that sees if whether or not you have enough room inside the chamber. Not for the 8mm. The reason that it's important for me to check this stuff is because I work with old guns, and I'm not sure necessarily that they're the original bolt that comes with it. And even so, over time, with lots of shooting or whatever, the your headspace can change, so you need to check it anyway. For I mean, over time, I'm talking 50 years, whatever. That you need to check the headspace before you shoot it. Um, my so that's why I do it. So what I've done here is, this is for the Chinese one from Mulan, I've taken the extractor off. Look at the size of the extractor in that thing. These military weapons have such large like extractors and stuff. Here's a comparison. This is my 32, and you can see the size of the extractor there. Civilian extractors are usually way smaller than the military. All right, but anyway, I took the extractor off so that it won't get in the way of the gauge. So, oh, man, hit the light. So what we'll get is we're going to put the bolt in. Then we're going to take and put the thing inside the chamber. We're going to close it. Now, this is to check to see if there's my bolt or whatever has too much space. If it closes all the way, then obviously there's too much wiggle room in there, too much space. So there's a problem, and it's not closing. So that means that I have an appropriate amount of space. Okay, so that's your. You also have, if you fail that test, they have a field test, which I have, and that's the maximum amount. This is the minimum amount, and of wiggle room that you're allowed to have. And for the field gauge, that's the maximum amount I mean, the ultimate maximum amount. So let's see what I have here. Okay. What I have here is the Greek. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the extractor off. On the Mauser, the extractor is easy to take off. There's a little thing you push here, and you rotate it, and it comes out of this. There's a little groove that it runs in. So when you push on it, it pulls it out of that groove, and then you just slide it off. So the extractor's off on the Greek. There's the Mauser release. So you can, oops, it's not going to come in. Oh, because the band over here that the extractor is attached to. There you go. So what we're going to do is we're going to try this here. Now, let's see, it's more difficult to close. It doesn't have to like come to a jam like the other one that I had. Who is that? That's the Chinese Mulan. It doesn't have to be. It just what you're supposed to do is close your bolt with nothing there. Then you put this in, and you notice, is there a difference? Yes, there is a difference. Now, if I was questioning whether or not it really, which I know because I've tested these, was okay, what I could do is I could try the field test of the field gauge. Field gauge is a little bit longer, and it gives you a. You can see now it's not closing at all. Okay, so that means that the Greek is good to go. And like I said, I've tested them all before, so it should be good to go. Um, Headspace, I know I've simplified Headspace, what Headspace is, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to get the impression out there that how important Headspace is in a gun. Said if you have a brand new 30-06 or 380, I mean 308 that you just bought, well, you're probably good to go. But when you're talking about older guns, um, they might not even be the original bolt, that somebody may have changed it out, or somebody may have manipulated somehow the chamber or the bolt or whatever. And so, like I said, for if it's a short one and the bullet won't fit in all the way, they have a reamer, and I plan to do that, and I'll show it. If it's a long chamber, that's a different story there. What has to happen is they have to take the barrel off the gun, and they put the barrel on the lathe and take off the thousandths of an inch that it will take to get it within specs. And I imagine that's a lot of money. So, but we're only talking thousandths of an inch, 4 thousandths, 6 thousandths of an inch, and you think that's pretty small, but um, I mean, how far do you think the brass really expands? I mean, it doesn't expand out much. Um, and if it doesn't expand the way it's supposed to expand, then there's going to be trouble. And that shot that I did, um, it really could have been a whole lot worse than it is. Um, so you got to make sure you wear your eye protection, because I would have hated to get that stuff in my eyes. It was bad enough burning my hair. Um, and if you have an old gun, bring it to your gunsmith. He's got gauges, and he can check it out for you, and just make sure it's safe, because it's well worth it. Especially, like I said, if it's old granddad's gun sitting in the closet, you really need to get that checked out if it hasn't been used in a while. Rust inside the chamber can affect the headspace, and that's what happened with this gun that happened to me. And but anyway, so that's what I have for today. Headspace. If there's questions, go to Google Headspace. If you want to write me questions or comments or suggestions, do that too. Um, but that's all I have. The number 5 project's just waiting on two things: waiting on parts and waiting on funding, and we'll be able to get that done. I've been busy with my cleaning business, and so hopefully we'll have some money to buy some parts, and we'll get that finished. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching.